to them, sent to them by a builder, what would be their role deciding which transactions go and which don't, or which do not?
Wait, sorry. So the question is like, how do proposers help with transaction selection?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So what would their role be in that?
In theory, if they're not running their own builder, they are actually supposedly blind to transaction selection. So
the floor is yours.
if they are,
I said the
Welcome back
average
to the
man
compass.
gets married multiple times, but the merge is only once.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Fiance.
I hope you guys like that.
I'm sure
hope you
she'll
guys like
understand.
ruining my life for a freaking joke.
You have the real merge. All right, are you really
Wait.
bouncing?
Wait, do you really have to go? I'm so sad.
He really does.
I really do. Well, we have like 11 other people that are waiting on us to get off, for me to get off this thing so we can go out. So I actually do have to go.
Yeah, and
But you guys keep going. But it's been a lot of fun, and guess what, guys?
Like it's on mobile.
Well,
app too.
we're gonna celebrate the merge tonight. We're gonna be at the Cowboy Bar in Jackson Hole, and we'll be
famous.
celebrating. We'll be celebrating all weekend together. You guys get out here soon, tomorrow, I think. So
I'll be there Friday.
it's gonna
Well,
be great, guys.
Just let Mina know that this abandonment will definitely show itself in your guys' wedding present. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this
Have
up
fun
when I
with
get to Jackson Hole.
Yeah. People don't forget.
Hey Mina, I was having the time of my life, and I got rugged because you wanted to
Rugged.
hang out with your not even
There
yet.
had to be
husband.
some kind of rug tonight. There had to be some kind of rug.
I'm changing your wedding.
All right, I love you
gift
guys.
to a rug.
You guys keep it
Literally getting
going.
a rug in the mail.
I'll watch
Just
you.
do a slipper.
I'll watch
Just
you on the
a quiet-
recording.
Yeah,
Love you guys.
yeah. Just tune into YouTube Live. Keep watching.
Yeah, I'll be watching YouTube Live in the bar.
No,
This is
download
amazing.
Riverside Mobile and just join mobile from the bar.
Ooh. David
Yeah.
always has a tech hack.
I hope
I love
Crisp
that.
app can like drown out the friggin' live country music.
Maybe there will be some people at the $1 Million Cowboy Bar talking merch.
Yeah.
That could be.
This
Can
would
you,
be
can you please walk into the bar and be like, merge, and just see who like looks around.
merge. First thing merge. Everyone's like,
Oh yeah, Ethereum. Yeah, it's tonight.
Son, are you lost? Oh man.
All right,
All right,
Eric, we're
amigos,
gonna
we'll
replace you with a
we'll
chart.
see you very soon.
Oh,
You guys
sorry.
keep it going.
Don't
Love
make me
you.
sad.
Eric's gonna be chart. I like that.
All right, let's take a look at the chart. I want to see what's going on.
Let's do it.
Maybe Steven, you're the big boy trader out of all of us. I got a little high time frame situation
Oh, I
going
already
on
know
here
what
on
that
this chart.
is. I don't even need to look at that.
Yeah. Do you have judgment on my chart setup here? I kind of have like a rookie chart setup. I got 20-week moving average. I got a 200-week moving average, a 300-week, and I have a very special volume profile setup going on to see
How clean
where
is
the
that
action
300 test, by the way? Isn't it?
Oh, that is a
Make you feel
nice
good?
clean test. May not happen again, my friend.
Yeah. Am I allowed to say bearish things on this podcast? I was trying to keep it good vibes only.
Yeah, it would be a first for the Bankless YouTube, but yeah.
It
Speak
is
from the
it is
heart.
a good vibes day, Steven. It is a good
Up
vibes
only.
day.
Up only.
No. I want you to speak from the heart and from the wallet. Continue.
Oh my god, I love this comment. Eric, put your foot down. You can't let it start like this. Sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat here. All right.
No, I mean, when I look at some of the higher time frames, it seems like there's a lot of air, kind of below us. I'd be very shocked if we don't
Touch that
retest
again.
like 1200. Like, I would be very shocked, especially given macro. I think the question to me isn't so much like, are we going to go down? I think we almost certainly are going to go down because the world is kind of fucked. But the question to me is like, is ETH going to hold like 1,000, 1,200, 1,300, and then Bitcoin just nukes to 14 or 12 or just something devastating, which I think is like a pretty high probability. I mean, like, the writing's been on the wall for a while, in my opinion, right? Because even like the sell-off we had last year, last summer, right? After price nuked, if you pulled up the ETH and the Bitcoin chart, like the Bitcoin chart looked like absolute death. It looked like it was going straight to zero. And then the ETH chart looked pretty good. And then ETH ended up running way higher than Bitcoin. And then we did the same thing this summer with the nuke. And initially ETH kind of sold off pretty badly. And then all that smart money came in, bought it up. And then obviously, Bitcoin's basically the same freaking place it was, and ETH's on its way to Valhalla right now. So I don't know. I think all the Bitcoiners are definitely whistling past the graveyard. I think some of the ETH people are maybe doing the same with the macro stuff right now. But I'm not going to sell everything because I just think predicting macro.
My God, is the ETH
hard.
sorry? Is the ETH BTC ratio back up to 0.08?
Oh, we're there, brother.
Wow,
let me
what a
zoom
recovery!
in for you here.
Wow. Wow, so strong.
It looks so good. I feel like as an ETH person right now, you want to probably just be expressing your bullishness and like spread trades, honestly. Like I'm probably going to cut half of my spot ETH position and replace it with spread trades, like ETH BTC or ETH some other alts. Like it's very hard for me to see how ETH doesn't at least just ruin everything.
God, look at that pin bar
over the next year.
on that last candle. Holy shit.
So good.
So this is the weekly candle, by the way. So this is kind of a high time frame look.
Right.
If we want to look a little closer, let's look at the daily and see what happens here.
Someone's asking about the indicator on the right, which is a I think people should know about.
That's
this.
volume, right?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and explain it, Stephen? That's a good one to go through.
Yeah, that's the volume profile. So the people are used to volume, right, where it shows you just the overall amount traded on that day on the bottom. The volume profile basically shows you the amount traded at all of those levels for like the range that you have visible there. So that's the volume profile visible range. So I love this thing because it shows you like where people are trading, right? When price tends to move, like you see that, that's what I'm talking about there. You see that big gap, you get that huge kind of spike out above that range breakout, and then there's just like an air pocket. It just probabilistically speaking, you have to think that we are going to maybe hit the wall at this kind of 2K level. Maybe we already did, and kind of retest down there. Like price tends to move back towards where there's demand, and that was the last place.
And so he suggested, well,
demand.
you guys
Nobody
could
wanted to
mine
bid it,
Bitcoin here.
And
And the Prime Minister's reaction was,
between there.
how do you know we have Bitcoin here?
Super useful. If you're a bull, what you're hoping for is that the merge delivers you some breakout above this like 2K region, right? Like if we can confidently get above this and hold it, you'll see there's like another large basis of support there. And if you,
as long as you, so I think there's like a theorem of blockchains where like block templating becomes this incredibly competitive specialized activity in richly stateful blockchains, and then it becomes like a trivial thing anyone can do in blockchains where all the transactions are pretty much fungible with each other. And if Bitcoin became richly stateful, then I do think the templating, the construction of the block would become a specialized activity. But because Bitcoin is like dumb, not said in a pejorative way, I think it's basically safe.
Do you think it's, with that in mind, do you think it's surprising how readily some of these parties adopted these OFAC regulations given the roots or the ideological background of some of these projects? Or is it exactly what
they
you expect?
over-complied. It was over-compliance. We saw it in stablecoins too. Like the stablecoins didn't actually have to put anything on the blacklist, but they chose to, some of them. So that's just like how it works in American political life. Like it's all about the private sector doing what it thinks the government wants.
Expectations,
Yeah, that's how it's worked ever since choke point. The credit card companies now ban things because they think the government might ask them. Well, really the flow of the chain is like bank, chartered financial institutions, payment processors, and then like internet companies that deal with payments. And ever since choke point, now they just like reason about what they think the government might want, and then they do that. So it's this like incredibly noxious like environment that's been completely chilled. And so yeah, pretty much everyone that's big and that thinks they might like face some sort of investigation or something like that, especially anyone that's regulated in any way, they're just going to over comply reflexively.
Would you guys say that to prevent this sort of situation from happening where people are forced to comply out of future fear or expectations of needing to comply in the future, that a fundamentally private or completely non-transparent blockchain would be preferable or necessary to achieve soft and or hard censorship resistance? Or is it really about looking at regulation or about creating mechanistic solutions to these problems?
I like the idea of a fully confidential. I don't think it fully solves the problem, actually. Who is it that had like smart stuff to say about this? But there's like, even for fully private blockchain, like smart contract blockchains like Aleo, I don't think it fully solves MEV. But yeah, that's basically my view. Like, you have a two-pronged attack. One is judicial, where you challenge all these things in the courts. That takes forever. The other one is practical. You just literally demonstrate that you don't have the ability to comply with this stuff. And that's the issue with proof of stake, in my opinion. You make it too easy for the government to basically commandeer the blockchain. Proof of work, like, yeah, it's possible. You can like identify all the miners and like mess with all the mining pools simultaneously and like stuff like that, but it's way, way harder. So for me, it's like theoretically possible in both cases to commandeer, both kinds of blockchains, but just practically much, much more difficult in proof of work land.
Yeah, one thing to add on, and this actually comes from Nick, I don't know if he said this probably a while back, but the UTXO model is a little bit more robust than the accounts model here. And so you almost have like two problems for Ethereum now. Not only do you know the financial entities behind these stakers for the most part, but you also know where their accounts are and what those accounts have interacted with very easily. As opposed to the Bitcoin model, you have this hash rate that can just disappear and plug back in wherever it wants. And we've seen that happen, right? We have a live test with China last year, and then the UTXO model where, we have this idea of like where Bitcoin has come from before, but it's not quite as complete. It's almost more like we have these things melted down and they pop back up as a coin something else. So you have a little bit more protection built in. Though I will say the question almost sounded like a sly Zcash shill. I do think I agree mostly. Like it would be nice to have some privacy on top of these things, but we seem to be a little bit away. There's some cool projects out there, some cool privacy stuff on Lightning, and there's some enthusiasm around some stuff that Starkware is thinking with zero-knowledge proofs on Bitcoin, but that stuff seems pretty far away, and Bitcoin definitely seems to have like the edge here for now.
The one other thing that I think is pretty interesting is just how the Treasury has kind of responded to some of this pushback as well. Like, obviously, in the wake of this Tornado Cash sanctioning, we saw a bunch of basically dusting attacks, people sending Tornado Cash ETH to a variety of, public ENS domains. And, in response to this, the Treasury basically came out and said, well, technically that does violate the sanctions that we put out there, but we're not going to prioritize enforcement, whatever that means. So I think, they probably didn't even realize this was kind of an edge case. This is something they hadn't considered. So I think, really these OFAC sanctions are more about sending a message rather than actually enforcing the letter of the law. And, that's kind of been the interpretation that's been taken by some of these other stablecoins like Tether. They basically have said, we're not going to enforce any sanctions until the government comes to us and explicitly asks us to.
I will say one thing that's kind of interesting about Ethereum and robustness against censorship is having actually like rich state allows you to denial of service attack, censoring nodes, censoring validators pretty trivially. Pretty much what you can do is you can have a transaction that pays an OFAC address after a very long and complicated and gas-consuming series of events, if and only if the miner is on some validating, some censoring validator list. If they are not, it's actually just like a relatively straightforward transaction. And that way, pretty much, you're insulating yourself a little bit from the censorship risk from the censoring nodes. And if you do this in bulk, like it's just it opens up an interesting like spam attack vector that isn't available in non-stateful blockchains.
Yeah, not to mention on L2s and just as activity kind of spreads out, right? It's just harder to track if it's happening at a second layer.
Totally, yeah. It would be interesting if they would like. I do wonder how they would handle transfers out of L2s.
Right.
Potentially touched. Yeah.
Did a little swap here.
Yeah, we're getting close to time, so I wanted to swap back in and thank everyone on this panel for coming on, for chatting, and for just riffing with us for a little while. This was certainly, as we expected, a really deep and really interesting conversation. And we have just a little bit of housekeeping to go over before we wrap up the stream. So to our esteemed panelists, Will, Parker, Kareem, Nick, thank you all so much for hopping on and chatting with us. Is there any other parting words of wisdom or thoughts or anything that you want to leave us with in the terminal hours before the merge?
I just have a question, actually. So there is a CM merge dashboard, is that correct? Is there something to look at about the merge?
Yeah, we do have a couple charts.
What would we want to like see? What's like the interesting thing there?
Yeah. So there are a couple things that we have. So one is this just kind of heartbeat monitor for the execution layer. So just for like, actually, I'm not sure if you can see the table below here. Yeah, because there's some interesting stuff that's down here. Just doing a little magic here in the background.
But I guess like everyone kind of expects the merge to work.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
from an operational standpoint, like we're going to hit TTD event. Hash difficulties on sort of a downtrend, so hash rates kind of come down a little bit, but still, we're still on pace for about 2 a.m. or so. I think the more interesting, kind of in terms of the like execution on this, is this chart, and so. This is now, if that was the Ethereum as it is now, like this is the beacon chain, and this is the consent. When block production moves over to the validators, we'll want to see green like this and not a lot of red. And so, like what we saw with Bellatrix, that hard fork like a couple weeks ago, is that a lot of client configurations were maybe not working well, or some validators were offline, and so we saw a lot of missed blocks, so proposers that just didn't show up to propose. So this we'll be looking at this to make sure that two epochs are successfully proposed, attested to, and then after that finalized. So I think basically like we'll know after like 12 minutes or so after TTD is hit if all things are clear.
Okay. Is there somewhere online we can look at this, or is this just for the protocol elites?
Twitter account.
Yeah, no, we'll be tweeting this. I mean, we also have our logs too from our nodes that we're running, so we'll be looking at that. We can see if we can compare the block hash of the last proof of work block to see if there was like a reorg around that last block, or if there was some miscommunication around what was the final proof of work block. So yeah, just looking for reorgs, looking for any indiscrepancies there with the composition of the final proof of work block is going to be really interesting. Like what transactions are going to be put in there. My guess is that a lot of people, as like a crypto historical moment, will try to flood that block and either try to like mint NFTs around there. I think someone even has a project like that, or put on-chain messages on there. There's probably some DeFi shenanigans too that I'm not thinking of that someone has thought of. So yeah, just thinking about that, looking at the composition of that last block will be interesting too.
Okay, well, yeah, I will set my alarm for 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the CM Twitter page.
Yeah, we'll post some of this.
I'll wake you up, Nick. Don't worry. So even though our stream is coming to a close, the Coinmetrics team, both those of us in the studio and you know, good, bad, or indifferent, regardless of how you feel about Ethereum versus any other chain, you know, building layer 1 blockchains is a very complicated and difficult task, and the challenges that have to be overcome are oftentimes stuff we haven't even imagined. So it's a pretty phenomenal thing, and we're excited to be watching it. As Kyle mentioned, we're pulling data directly from our Ethereum nodes, so we can see the freshest from the source data that you can ever get, you can imagine. And we'll be posting on Twitter once from our perspective we see a successful merge. So keep an eye out for that. And the Coinmetrics team, we are getting back together to hop on stream tomorrow morning. So Thursday, September 15th, around 9 a.m. Eastern time. We're gonna hop back on for a little while on the stream just to kind of post-mortem what went on with the merge. We'll take a look at some of the on-chain activity, review some of our charts. And if anything crazy went on, we'll be sure to touch on that as well. So to our panelists who came on at the very end here, Parker, Will, Kareem, Nick, thank you guys again so much. Everyone who joined both as an attendee here in the Zoom and those of you who watched on Twitter or on the Compass Mining YouTube channel, thanks again, Will. We really appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us tonight for what I have been referring to as the absolute greatest Ethereum pre-merge show that has ever been planned and executed, and I think I'm right. I don't know. I honestly don't know, because this is the only show. I've been here busy with you guys, so I haven't watched any other coverage, but I'm sure this was the best. Thank everyone. Thank you all so much. The broadcast will be available on Twitter and will be from the Coinmetrics Twitter account using some of this content going forward. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, because I run the Twitter account and my KPI is based on follower growth. But for real, I share all of the amazing insights that come out of our research department and the content produced by our customer success team like Parker. And if you haven't already, although I know everyone already has, make sure you check out Mapping the Merge, the report that Kyle and our research team put out recently on the Ethereum, the merge, everything you need to know. It's a great primer and will really help you get oriented for the post-merge world. With that, thank you everyone and good night.
Like trying to push this
for example, have front run the bottoming in earnings by 6 to 9 months, right? So there's a pretty big gap there, and I think there's a good argument to be made that crypto is going to be like way ahead of that, right? So I think you kind of do have to do a certain amount of like just biting on something and buying when it's really painful, like if you're a long-term person, because like I do think the reversal at some point will be pretty swift, and it is going to front run it to a degree. But I'm just skeptical that now is exactly the time right now.
Right. So we've been talking a little macro. Let's get back to a little E stuff. So I have the ultrasound money site up. Looks like we're about 3 hours and 20 minutes away.
Yeah, people are actually confused by that. I'm monitoring the chat that we have for the future EF live stream. People are like going between websites, being like, "Guys, is it in 3 hours or 2 hours or like when the hell is it?"
Yeah, I'm confused.
It's between like three to 4 hours from now.
Okay.
What does Bordle say? Bordle.wtf is the other one.
In
5:27 is 1:27 a.m. Is
Google is pulling it from.
Google's been weird. The Google stream has been
3
weird.
minutes. They're pulling it from Ethereum.org. They say.
No one really knows, but we'll figure it out soon. Soon, TM.
Sorry, I was texting my girlfriend if she could very quietly bring the tequila bottle inside the room so I could refill.
We're also being asked to take shots, so that's probably good.
Okay,
by the chat.
Incoming.
That is incoming. The chat has never seen me drink beer on
Emma. Paradox. Shout out to Emma.
So we're actually like 2 hours behind the original target time. It's because like miners are starting to turn their rigs off. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah, the hash rates started to drop off.
Yeah, people are.
Are you shocked that it just started happening? Like I thought this would be weeks in advance.
I'm surprised that miners haven't like rushed for the exits on their GPUs. Like GPUs are still valuable pieces of equipment, and so you would kind of expect like some of them to want to start to like front run all of the GPU dumpage, but it looks like not very many are doing that, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'd imagine the smart ones who knew this was coming, who believed this was coming, maybe didn't upgrade hardware and just kind of like fully depreciated that hardware to zero. And David, do you have any idea of like what percentage of miners might become stakers or will be stakers? Do we know if that's a minority or a majority?
I don't know that particular number. I do know that some big mining entities are like planning on making that elegant transition from mining to staking. As soon as like staking begins, they just turn into a staking company. Not all miners have done this, but some definitely have. Some have baked this into, and like some miners are like definitely aligned with Ethereum, with the core devs, and they're not like antagonistic, and they are like highly aligned with the Ethereum network. So they're not just like these mercenary miners. Not all miners are like that though. So it's a nice balance. I think it's a minority that are like super highly aligned with Ethereum that are going to ultimately become stakers, but like a significant minority though.
That's kind of nice to hear. I think would they? Do you think they would be the type to kind of set up their own validators? I mean, I imagine
Certainly,
someone with that kind of hardware experience would be their own validators, not using any liquid staking options. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not like, it's not like one company, right? It's like a company with investors, with like all owners. It's like the most logical thing to do with that capital after the fact. And like imagine if you're an investor of a Ether like mining agency company, and you've been, I don't know like how dividends work like that, but like as soon as Ethereum turns to proof of stake, like you actually don't have to worry about like a lot of like the capital reinvestment, because you don't have to play that game anymore. That game's over. And so like the amount of ether that you've ended up with is the amount of ether that you've ended up with. So at that point, like this thing just like spits out staking yield to its owners from now into perpetuity, I guess.
Right. So I'm curious, like
Guys,
after.
should we take some,
do you have a shot?
I want to take some
ready?
questions soon.
Okay.
No, I do not have a shot. I have questions.
Okay. Well, before we go into questions, I wanted to get
go into those
real quick. I just want to go into right after the merge. There are certainly some people. We're definitely not any of them playing this as kind of like an airdrop play, and we might see some people selling after that to claim their ETH proof of work. Do you guys imagine that will be a pretty quick move after the merge?
Yes.
I guess
that's what Hal Press is saying. It's like just like snapback. So many people are playing the ETH POW like airdrop game that they're creating hella spreads, and like other people like Hal Press are just like pocketing that arbitrage.
Yeah, I played that very badly. Honestly, I'm very ashamed of myself for how badly I played that. It was like 350% annualized or something insane.
That is a lot.
I'm getting paid massively. Like I've made 1%, almost 1% today on my long just from the funding.
Wow, that's nuts.
Which is hilarious.
Can you imagine?
But Hal's way of playing the future spreads was really smart, and I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm stupid. That was so simple and beautiful, and it was literally free money. It was free arbitrage, and that's why I love crypto, though, because I feel like you can really have an edge here. Like, that was not that hard to think through. I just didn't think through it, right? Whereas in the TradFi world, like, a lot of this stuff gets just zapped away by like quants with supercomputers before you can even think about the idea. And here, there's just like bags of money lying around still. It's like, it's so crazy to me.
Armand, why don't you take over? Let's go to some questions. Have you even seen some questions in the chat and in the Discord, maybe?
Yeah.
No questions, only shots.
that is the main request.
I don't think that's a question.
All right.
Yeah. Well, questions or comments, or funny comments. I may read a funny comment. Drop it. All right. One question is, if the Ethereum surge, not the merge, will drop gas fees by 1000x, shouldn't the merge lower the issuance to 99.9%? A 90% reduction in issuance is not enough.
The answer is no. Those things are uncorrelated. And also, the surge won't drop transaction fees by that much. Yeah, I mean, it'll drop it by a lot, but not that much.
So that initial assumption is incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like connecting two very distant things. I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. This might be for you, Steven, or anybody. Can someone explain the spread between spot and perp? Why is it so high?
Yeah, I saw that this morning. I was longing a perp, and it was like 1560 when the spot was like 1575, which is pretty outrageous. I mean, I just think there's just insane demand for the perps, right? Like, funding is a way to sort of equalize that demand, but at the end of the day, like, somebody has to take the other side of the trade, and even if you crank the funding up to infinity and still there's not somebody wanting to take the other side of the trade at that price, then eventually price just goes down. So I think that is, oh god, speaking of price going down, this candle just absolutely nuked here. Whoop. I'm okay, I think. Anyway, but yeah, I got really close to my stop there. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like trading right now is like suicide. I think the volatility for the next few days at least is going to be absurd.
Oh, I'm feeling happy. I enjoyed that very much so. What a delightful display of colours. Right now, I've seen this swerve.
Damn. Yeah, that is a gnarly candle.
We kind of covered this in one of our episodes of going from hodler to trader. I think it was like 5 episodes ago, but maybe like a short version of a compilation, a sort of distillation of that answer. Trading strategies for non-traders. I think a lot of people, their first question is just like very basic around platforms, methodologies, things to keep in mind, how to go from non-trader / hodler to trade strategies, especially on some of the things that were just discussed today. Anybody?
Sorry, what was that? I was staring at a chart.
Steven trying to figure out if his limit Limit orders
Did
are
you just
triggering.
go to that? Yeah, you totally did.
I'm not good at multitasking. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not liquidated right now.
Steven, are you tilting right now? Be honest.
No, this isn't like a size of position where I'm gonna cry or anything. but it's enough to make me watch.
Do you want me to repeat it or just?
Yeah, could you repeat the question, sir?
I'm going from non-trader to trader.
What about
like,
it?
Really, like, give me the like. Okay, you're waking up tomorrow, and you want to start to think like a trader. As I said, we just covered it. 5
celebrations in the streets.
What's the taking the hour?
I can't believe that it's taken this long, and it's so amazing that it's been it's here. It's just amazing, really. I've been hearing about this since the first day I ever heard of anything with Ethereum, so it's very exciting. So thanks for inviting me and have fun.
Thank you so much for joining us and discussing.
Take care.
Thank you. It's always a good point when someone says like impossible. I would make the same statement. Hey, like don't say it. So let's think about what would have to happen for some massive hash rate game on, and then you would have to bring some new miners with massive hash rate to mine there, and because it's the terminal total difficulty and not the block number, it would take a long time. So so this is the possibility, and it means that some of the miners that Hudson mentioned that were quite friendly and supporting for the long-term Ethereum success would have to be involved here as well. So we're talking about Sparkpool and Ethermine, which are actually already building their staking capacity, and they are staking operators. So let's use it as unlikely instead of impossible.
And,
definitely impossible
yeah,
is a
exactly.
bad word.
And they would also, based on my discussions with some of the mining pools, they also hold ETH, right? They don't want to hurt the ecosystem necessarily because they're hurting themselves to a degree. I guess one of the more interesting discussions that we haven't had is, and it's something that we had to communicate a lot internally with all our index clients, with all the portfolio management companies who use our data, is what happens with ETHW. How do you treat that if you're a fund and you had Ethereum? Now you've got this other thing that is potentially worthless, maybe not, who knows, and you have to decide what do you do. And I guess I'm gonna answer the question myself, right? Because this is a discussion I've been having a lot, and it's late. It's everybody's waiting to see what their custodians are doing, basically, because they all have custody somewhere, and if the custodian doesn't give you access to your ETHW, then meh, you don't.
you ready?
Oh.
It better be a good show, or else I'm gonna leave you.
I understand.
Do I need to be dancing in the background?
Yep.
Okay. I'll plan out a little striptease. With a bra. Like at the end is like a reveal and it says like proof of steak.
Proof of sex.
Proof of sex. Okay. Just wanted to come visit. I love you.
Love you too. You wanted to what?
What? Visit?
Oh.
Just let you know. I'm on the other side of the desk clump, you know?
Oh, yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
Check 1 2.
But I do have some homebrew chilling in the fridge. Looking forward to getting into that if it all goes smoothly.
So I was going to say, the real merge isn't what we're going to be talking about with Ethereum. It's you and Anthony finding each other in Australia and giving a big hug and merging.
Check 1 2.
I have to go to Amsterdam to meet Anthony.
Itself is decentralized, and so within a couple of days after GitHub shut down, there were copies of the original repositories posted everywhere. Tornado did do a few things right during their lead up, including they posted their web. They owned tornadocache.eth, and they had an IPFS hash linked there, and an IPFS page that you load if you go there has a GitHub commit hash at the bottom, and so people were, such as myself, were able to verify when someone said, hey, here's the original Tornado repository, and they posted it somewhere else online. I was able to go to the tornadocache.eth, follow it to IPFS, look at the commit hash, and then verify that the one they had that was posted somewhere else is in fact the one that was the website from before, for example. And so doing things like that can really help, I think. Like where you don't need to necessarily have, I mean, it helps, but you don't need to have an alternative hosting in advance. You just need the ability to be able to rebuild it quickly and rebuild that trust quickly. And so by having using ENS and on-chain things for kind of roots of trust, so you can say, hey, this is the latest one that we're publishing. If we all disappear tomorrow in a drone strike, you know, the community can rebuild from that.